Welcome to the Fun Astrology Podcast for August 27th. Thomas Miller, Kristin Lawhead, and this is our last of the 12 Great Pyramid weeks. You know, Kristin, one thing about doing all the signs is it's a long haul if you do them 1 week at a time.
Yeah, 12 weeks ago. Crazy. It
You
has
don't
been, but
realize.
just in time for eclipse season.
Well, it is. And this is what Pisces on the ascendant looks like relative to the Great Pyramid. We're going to wrap it up coming home all the way. Because if you have Pisces on the ascendant, now this one is a 17-degree ascendant, so that puts us right in the middle again. If you were a 0-degree Pisces, then this line would move over to the second house. But again, like we said last week, for most of you, it's going to encompass the first and the second. And remember how we talked about that kind of public. Last week we were up here in the 12th and the 1st, so that was private to public. Here we're going more public to private with this placement, because for most of you with Pisces rising, you're going to be dealing with this very public, personal first house first. And then that energy is also going to carry in, especially as those planets keep moving forward, into your second house of what you value. Now, this particular chart with the interpretation, Kristin, obviously has something that you would have to stop and say, whoa, right off the bat, because one of the two planets involved in the vortex, you have to obviously mentally picture that we have Saturn and Neptune right here. And that is creating a Saturn return for this person, for one. Then as they move forward, is going to hit their sun. So this is personal on top of personal.
Yeah, I hope they caught the webinar that we did, because it would be perfect for them, that Saturn and Aries webinar. And we especially focused on the Saturn return, and especially with this person's sun in the mix as well. This is a huge transit for them and their self-discovery and what they value.
Yeah, and let's just mention that is, as Kristin said, that's that Saturn in Aries, the webinar that is free there on the website. And hopefully also you'll catch the eclipse webinar coming up. That you can register for that at hightimelineliving.com. And we're going to be talking about, as we mentioned last week, also how Uranus is affected by the eclipses too. And Uranus, in this person's case, is in the third house and straddling over to the fourth. So let's just, while we're there, Kristin, let's cover this one. Then we'll come back to, last but not least, Pluto. but here we're talking about the same kind of thing. We're talking about and something that's interesting about this, we always go to fourth house being home and family, but siblings are in the third house, and also neighbors, which can be a form of family to many. So we're dealing with a crossover there as well for Uranus.
Yeah, and I think in Gemini too, it also has that theme around duality and the groups that you're kind of bringing together, as well as the connections that you're able to make with other people. And it's so much about your ability to communicate and kind of be that person that kind of ties everyone to other relationships.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, another thing about Uranus in this position, I kind of think of Uranus, I don't know if you feel this way or not, but I kind of think of it as, in a sense, a higher octave of Mercury. I don't know why. I just kind of think the two are, maybe it's because they can jolt you, Mercury. But here, this person could expect some. And, we've got the retrograde coming up for Uranus too, but they could expect some jolts around communication, family. And remember, Uranus also represents hidden genius or hidden discoveries. So there can be all kinds of new revelations around those areas. Effective communications. You know what might be good for this person? Join Toastmasters. Communicating, learn to give speeches, work through their program, do their projects. If you're Pisces rising, then you have this square to Gemini from your ascendant point. And with Uranus sitting right there, this whole thing about discovering all kinds of new things, that your Toastmasters will be a wonderful place to exhibit that. And that's unique to Pisces rising because it does put a lot of this action for most of you in the third house.
Yeah, I think that Toastmasters is a great suggestion, and especially for this chart with the yod that's being created to this person's Mars. I think that the Uranus and the Saturn transit, as well as the Saturn return, and to that exact 0 degree Scorpio Mars, and the fact that Mars is ruling both the ninth and the second, the teaching and the value, I think that that is a awesome suggestion.
Okay, so after the retrograde, then the Saturn-Neptune retrogrades, this person will be experiencing that Saturn return in probably 2026. So they're in that energy, that orb of that energy right now.
Mm-hmm.
It will cross the sun eventually, so a ton of personal transformation. So all of you with Pisces rising should be looking for that, all kinds of personal transformation through this. And also look at the aspects to your first house, because that will be a big clue. This person has a beautiful kite to their first house. So here's the kite, and it comes down and it anchors here with Chiron, but also Saturn. So, I mean, there's a ton of karma being worked through here, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
All right. And then, as we said, last but not least, Pluto here now is in this, I like this public-private contrast. In the public 11th house of groups and communities and friends, etc., moving also into the 12th house of endings and completions. I like to use that still. It is the last of the 12, like we mentioned last week. And it is the area where we button things up. It's also where we can experience that secret sorrow and self-undoing that is undoing of things that don't serve. And that's the whole purpose of the pyramid. Remember, they're all positive connections. So this is a restructuring, as you said earlier about this third, how you show up in your community.
Yeah, community, friend groups, and I think too with the 11th house association to dreams and goals, this is also a reevaluation of what you want your next couple of years to look like as well.
Yeah, excellent point. Good. All right. Well, and then just work the rest of the chart in. And obviously for this person, they have some wonderful other aspects. These have been two awesome charts to finish this series up with, but you would certainly take this into consideration, especially since Pluto and Uranus. I mean, there's the base of the pyramid right there, conjunct within 3 degrees of each other. Here's a beautiful aspect. Jupiter in its exaltation in Cancer, very close to the part of fortune. Kristin mentioned that yod to Mars. Well, that needs interpreting. Wonderful Neptune and Scorpio placement. That's what I have. And this one is in retrograde. So there's that. So that's what you do is you just look through and you just start to take all the other pieces and relate it back to those 3 points on our now infamous Great Pyramid. Kristin, this has been a wonderful series. Thank you for all your excellent and awesome contributions.
Thank you. It has been such a fun series and excited for the next one.
Well, I think we should keep something going, don't you?
I agree.
And that we will do. We don't know what exactly yet, but we'll discover it together next week. Have a great rest of the week. Kristin will be back with you on the audio podcast tomorrow. We'll see you next week for whatever is our surprise.